reacting to Charles Hoskinson saying, beating a dead horse, choose Ergo. September 6th, 2022 on Periscope. All right, you tell me, Charles, why are we choosing Ergo? Why not Cardano?
This is Charles Hoskinson broadcasting live from warm, sunny Colorado. Very briefly, I figured I'd make a beating the dead horse video today. As usual, ETC is rearing its head again, this time because of the miner transition. So there.
Yeah. Oh, this is going to be a good one. We already talked about it, so it's cool that he's got a video going on. But yeah, he Ergo over ETC. What do you guys think in chat? I wonder if I can do a poll. We're going to do, let me see if I can do a poll for you guys. I'm curious. Manage poll. Create new poll. Question. Ergo versus ETC. Ergo, ETC. We don't care about the rest. This is the... Let's make it, how long is that video? 8 minutes? Let's make this a 10-minute poll. Start the poll. Boom. All right, let's get into this.
There seems to be some economic play. Now, as many of you know, I was a member of the ETC community for several years. I joined immediately after ETC was born because I felt that the Ethereum holders deserved to have a choice between the original chain and the new chain, which rolled back a particular feature.
So that is extremely important to understand when coming from Charles's perspective, is that he did support Ethereum Classic. You know what I mean?
Roll back an event, I should say, related to the DAO hack. We, as a company, IO, decided to build a full-featured client called Mantis. We invested millions of dollars. We had lots of people work on it. And we attended all the ETC events every year for several years. And we put a lot of effort into the ecosystem. Years ago, we said, well, what do you guys want to do? Do you want to innovate or not? Do you just want to preserve the status quo? Because the status quo is unsustainable and not stable. The design of Ethereum is flawed. Everybody agrees to that. This is why Ethereum 2 is underway. It's why the merge is underway. That model just doesn't work, and everyone's moving away from it. Now, there's enormous innovation that has occurred. For example, Polygon has the ZK EVM. There's protocols like Prism, for example, that Pramod Viswana's developed. There's all kinds of things that are occurring. In fact, we even published a paper called Ophelamos, which we recently talked about at Crypto. That paper was actually inspired by our participation in Ethereum Classic because we imagined that proof of work would need to be enhanced and innovated. So we created a useful proof of work. We started that research agenda years ago when we were still members of that community. The problem is that there's no money in working on ETC. There was an attempt to put a treasury system in, and that fell apart when it was going to be structured in a way that if ETC went up.
Right, like Charles Hoskinson was one that pushed for treasury, and that got pushed back against hard by the miners because it was going to be 20% of the mining revenue.
The developers would actually have to give the excess profits back. So in other words, the investors, the people like Grayscale who own it, they buy ETC, they get to hold it and keep it. And if it goes up, they keep the profits. But the people actually building the chain don't get anything. They only get time and materials work. Okay. So the people doing all the work get paid time and materials, and people who do no work just buy ETC. They get all the profits. So why not just buy ETC? Why do any work at all? Why actually invest time, effort, and money into building up a project? So it wasn't.
See, this is like a hard part with crypto in general, especially when we get down to the principles. It's why Bitcoin's in a unique space where you know, it, It's very slow. We kind of talk about like the whole idea of like development wise, slow and low, right? Like your brisket. Keep crypto projects like a brisket, slow and low. Because the fact is that the faster you push, the more centralization you need. And this is to like Flux's defense and like Daniel Keller's point, right? Where if you want to innovate, you have to start pushing into traditional capitalist ideals, right? Because without that, it's kind of impossible to innovate, right? This is like the big arguments that people get into surrounding even like on a broader scale, communism versus capitalism, right? And even if you go and read like Karl Marx, for example, it's very clear that he even states to have like a true utopian society, it still has to come post-capitalism, because capitalism is what provides the innovation, right? And so you end up in a spot where you have to have basically within cryptocurrency to spur on the essentially the innovation, you have to have a capitalist mindset, and that capitalist mindset is going to put you into a position where you could end up compromising certain principles within cryptocurrency. And it's an interesting topic, I think, at the very least, right? And so what he's kind of getting into here is they were, basically trying to push ETC along, but at this point, the reason the development stopped is because nobody's getting paid to develop on it, right? And that's kind of a problem.
Reasonable or well thought out approach. And so we just said, there doesn't seem to be any desire to really innovate here. That's fine. And I thought that was the end of it. Now, I still have the Ethereum Classic Twitter handle. And lately, members of that community have been reaching out, harassing me through multiple channels, demanding that I turn it back to its rightful owners. True to form, there's just demands, nothing for it. And this is just the nature of this community. I don't understand what they want or what they seek to accomplish. At the end of the day, even if they get the miners from Ethereum, they're stuck with all the problems of Ethereum.
Well, I mean, they do get by default all of the ASIC miners, and I think maybe that's something that Charles is missing here, especially if he's talking about Ergo versus ETC. Like ETC gets miners regardless, just de facto, because there's nothing else that can be moved over there. And the backsplash, thanks for the 2324 tip on Coinbase. You rock, good sir.
Ethereum is actively discarding their old chain to attempt to resolve. Mm-hmm. They have no technical team, no real dApp traction at all.
Yeah.
And no philosophy other than, well, we are really angry that Vitalik did something years ago, and we're the true chain, the true vision of Vitalik. Could have been something very different. It could have been a technological marvel that would have looked at proof of work from an actual viable, scalable way and shown new ways to do things. It could have been a bastion of formal verification for Solidity and the EVM. Could have been first introduced recursive snarks. Could have had a high throughput proof of work algorithm. I mean, don't take my word for it. Take a look at these papers that were written by credible scientists at Princeton and University of Illinois and so forth, like Prism, for example, scaling Bitcoin by 10,000x. They also tried it on the Ethereum virtual machine. They got over 100x. And this is a 2018 paper. The world has moved on. First to market with useful proof of work. And then look at these beautiful things.
It's interesting these bringing up proof of useful work, and like that was something that they had pushed for Ethereum Classic, and he was pushing back in the day, and now that's moved on to Flux, right? But then it comes down to the fact is like, is Daniel Keller right? At the end of the day, we go back into that capitalist kind of idea. Is there a certain amount of centralization that has to seep its way in to pay for development for innovation to actually take place? Like, is that a needed, is that a needed thing? And at the end of the day, I think possibly it is. Are there more decentralized ways to do it? than maybe a traditional company structure or infrastructure? I think, yes, there are. Some things do it. There are like community dev funds and so on that can help that, but that does mean the community has to get behind it and build it. So what does that mean for miners though, too? Because unfortunately, what miners are incentivized to do is to basically mine and sell. That's pretty much it, right? So how do you incentivize miners to help pay for essentially innovation within proof of work, right? Which is kind of the problem we're having within proof of work right now. Outside of Ergo and Flux, right? Outside of Ergo and Flux, there's not really any innovation within proof of work. Ergo being basically smart pools, that sort of thing, right? And then, of course, Flux being eventually, hopefully, proof of useful work. But other than those two projects, there's no innovation within proof of work. Like, there's zero innovation with Ravencoin. There's, as far as proof of work is concerned, right? There's, I mean, probably overall in general, zero. There's zero innovation within Ethereum Classic, right? This is just the way it goes. Somebody's asking about Caspa. Caspa has some innovation because of the throughput, right? The scalability. So yes, Caspa has innovation. So yeah, I can give you guys that. I can give you that. But Caspa is very early, right? So you got to be a little bit careful with Caspa. You got to, because we don't have proof that it's going to innovate quite yet.
The gun's done.
Yeah, promise of
And
innovation.
there's many, many, many more. So anyway, my recommendation,
which I guess
is
is the
if you're
same for
interested in
Flux.
proof of work.
So if we want to be really, 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 really picky here, by the way, Ergo is the only one that is currently innovating proof of work. Nobody else is. So Ergo's the only one that's innovating right now.
Ergo is a real project, and it's an example of something that has a philosophy. It has that same principles, much better, I'd say, than ETC. A very fair allocation, proof of no pre-mine, these types of things. It's got a very evangelistic, active community. They're really fired up. Ergo is it's a proof of work ecosystem. It's got Sigma protocols and extended UTXO. It's got a lot of really cool ideas built inside of it. And frankly, it's very innovative. It has a reason to exist. It's a small team, and they're fighting hard, and they're very scrappy. And they keep growing, and they're just nice people. And they want to innovate. They want to do new things, and they care. By the way, it also has a treasury. Not a big one, but one, and it pays their developers. And just full disclosure, I'm not a core developer of Ergo. Now, we bought some when the project came out, so I guess I'm in Barry's position in that respect. I'd love to be a developer of Ergo. We just haven't had the time or the resources to commit to it.
God dang. If Charles decides to start helping and developing on Ergo, it's going to be insane. He doesn't have the time or the resources yet. But if he does... So, I mean, it's clear that he's giving up on Ethereum Classic, right? So that, I mean, I don't know if he's really worked with Ethereum Classic in quite some time, but that frees up time there.
That said, we talk to them all the time because they tend to implement things before we do. Like they were some of the first to do reference inputs and these types of things. I think they're also implementing NEPA PALs as well, which gives them beautiful light clients and side chains in the proof of work ecosystem. Just because the price of a token goes up doesn't mean it has an ecosystem. It doesn't mean it has developers. It doesn't mean it has the right philosophy to do something interesting and unique. I tend to look at fundamentals, and there was a moment in the history in the cryptocurrency space where Ethereum...
Well, of course, he's shilling a coin he owns. But he owns a lot of ETC too, I'm sure. Right.
Classic could have had phenomenal fundamentals, gotten a different brand, and become something unique and treasured. I feel that moment's closed. Now, I could be wrong, but
give me that again.
Where Ethereum Classic could have had phenomenal fundamentals, gotten a different brand and become something unique and treasured. I feel that moment's close. Now, I could be wrong, but I've been dragged back into it because of the Twitter handle. I'm not going to give it away. I'm just going to keep it. It's a memento, just like the things in my office. And you guys are just going to have to figure out what to do. And I understand your price is going up and you're all excited and fired up. And the people who hold bags are real excited about that. But ultimately, you have to say, are there developers? The answer is no. Is there a roadmap that's reasonable and that roadmap is going to go places? And are people behind that roadmap who have the resources and the ability to execute? No. Is there a commitment in the community to make meaningful and significant and sustained changes towards a vision to be able to capture a philosophy? No. That's just a fact. And if you disagree, well, then where's the evidence of it? You had an opportunity to have a tier 1 blockchain development company come in. You passed on that. You have an opportunity to create dedicated funding for your developers so that they can actually go and have multi-year incentivized projects to build things. And you're competing with people with billions of dollars, not millions, billions of dollars in their development fund. And you say, well, we're ideologically pure. Well, so is Bitcoin, much more so than all of us combined. And they have a lot more money. So anyway, it's beating a dead.
And so is Bitcoin, and they have a lot more money. He's not wrong. It does sound like he's super bitter with Ethereum Classic, and he's definitely biased. And like I said today, I think on our show, like he's worked with Kushti before, so he's definitely biased in that from that perspective. But he does bring up a lot. Well, he's mad at ETC because he worked on ETC Crypto Farm. That's the thing, is like, there's a whole bunch of miners in the community that are trying to push Ethereum Classic, but there's no developers like that, which is the problem. And I think that's where his frustration lies, right? At the end of the day.
Dead horse at this point, but please stop asking me for the Ethereum Classic Twitter handle. And if you're a miner and trying to make a decision, go to the Ergo side.
If you're a miner and trying to make a decision, go to the Ergo side. I think for GPU miners, yeah, I'm headed on the Ergo side. That being said, Mr. Charles, you're missing all of the ETC hash ASICs that literally have only one option, which is Ethereum Classic. So how much of an influence does that amount of hash rate have over the market? And then we get back into the chicken and the egg argument, right? If there's security on the network, will the developers come? Yes or no? Or does there have to be innovation on the network, or the miners collapse the network? Which one happens? We had our poll, Ergo versus ETC. And Ergo won by 100%. So there you go. ETC did not get any votes.